My name is Jane. I'm a compulsive overeater. I write my food down from the grey sheet, commit it to my sponsor every day religiously, and I don't eat in between those meals no matter what. And abstinence is the most important thing, the most self-loving, the most self-nurturing thing I'll do for myself 3 times on a daily basis. And please don't be fooled if I'm sounding confident or looking confident, because my heart is pounding and I am very nervous, and also because I live right in central London and the helicopters are going mad out there because there's a march on Trafalgar Square about the COVID. And it's concerning me about my internet connection. It's telling me it's unstable. So I'm trying not to project that I might get cut off or freeze or whatever. But anyway, let me begin my qualification without any further ado. So what it was like, my more serious attempt at dieting began in Weight Watchers around 1985 when I quit smoking and I had piled on the pounds. I was successful in Weight Watchers. I lost 42 pounds and I became slightly aware that my body was actually responding to scales. In some strange way, I became aware of that. At that time, let me see, I've written some notes, so let me see, I became slightly aware of this. So thus began an on-off relationship with dieting and food in general. My then teenage children helped me in my efforts. Food and baking played a big part in our lives, and my son began training to be a chef. And on his way to his college one morning on his bicycle, he was killed by a lorry. He was 18. So he was killed in a road accident. And I won't try and describe the pain of that because I can't. But however, my response to that was to remarry and flee and do a geographical and just run away to skip that bereavement process, as I thought at the time. The marriage lasted 3 years and we were religious, and he also sometimes joined me in my efforts with Weight Watchers. And one day we were praying with a friend and the subject of food and dieting came into the prayer. Again, a little bit of awareness crept in and I realized that my diets, at that point, I realized that my diets were only serving as an elastoplast over the wound, and that I was paying lip service. And I didn't have the language at that time to say that, and neither did they understand, and neither did I understand. But I did feel moved to say, in a desperate kind of way, I dream of food. I do dream of food. I don't know where that came from. But something was stirring in me internally in that moment. And I fancied too that a wise fatherly head in another dimension had heard me and had validated my plea by knowing and giving me the message, it's going to be all right. At that time, I was very super spiritual and also possessed of a vivid imagination, which I still have. But now it's found an outlet in creative writing and a creative writing group. But allowing for these 2 facts, something significant happened to me regarding food that day. Fast forward to 1994, the marriage ended. And I restarted my 12-step journey and found Overeaters Anonymous, amongst other fellowships. And this one's spiritual, I thought, being a super spiritual person. And it is spiritual, it's a spiritual program, as opposed to a commercial program like Weight Watchers is. But I attended it for 8 years and had 5 different sponsors, and I never achieved abstinence. And in the end, I gave up thinking, I'll just go back to Weight Watchers. At least there I had some physical recovery. And again, I had piled on the pounds, same amount, I think. Around this time, before I got back to Weight Watchers, I was lying in the dark one night and I was staring into the darkness and I felt utter despair. And I thought, this must be what dying feels like. I don't know if I was dying spiritually or my ego was dying or both things were going on. But out of the blue, a girl called me from Germany whom I'd met in another not food fellowship. And she said to me, I've been thinking about you and I want to send you these cassette tapes. Then it was cassettes. of a food convention. And she sent those tapes. And I think it was OA House she'd been doing, I'm not sure. But I remember the piece she'd had round whatever she was doing. Anyway, so I listened to that. I listened to her. Let me see. And I returned to the Saturday morning Hines Street Grey Sheet meeting round that time, where I had previously thought it was an Overeaters Anonymous meeting. It was on the OA list. But when I'd seen them passing around photographs and I heard scales again, I thought I've been there and done that. I couldn't wait to leave there. I thought they were crazy, to tell you the truth. I thought, this is not for me. But I wasn't getting abstinent in Overeaters Anonymous. So who was the crazy one? The crazy one was me. But a little bit of humility must have crept in, because I went back and there was a woman there who was doing Food Addicts Anonymous. And I went with that because they were allowed more food groups, more food, more 4 times a day they could eat. And they were allowed to estimate in restaurants. So of course I went with her. I did that, but I also got an epiphany moment in there, I have to say. I realized it was physiological and biological. It was more than just diets. If one diet worked, I think I heard it in there actually, or I might have heard it in Grey Sheet, we'd all do it. And no diet had worked for me consistently. So I didn't pick up sugar, flour and wheat. That's what they banned and that. But they allowed you to estimate, as I say, in restaurants. I didn't go to a lot of restaurants. All this was appealing to me. And I did that for 6 years. And I thought I had achieved some abstinence. And it was only after 6 years I became compulsive again and started to binge on one of the carb things I was allowed there. I think it was a grain thing. And I hadn't done that for 6 years. So where was this coming from? So I returned again to GSA because I'd moved near that meeting. So I thought I'll go there and I'll use it for support. I had no intentions of doing Grey Sheet. But I think my higher power had I was ready. That word doing holds the key for me to GSA, because I was now actually ready to do it and hear the language. And it's not for those who want it, it's not for those who need it, it's for those who'll do it. And PPP, prep, plan and prepare. There's always another meal coming, and no matter what. And that somehow was sinking into me, even though I wasn't conscious that it was. And that was January 2009. And also I see miracles in there, and the miracles are in this room today. And I heard miracles. And not only had I quit this and quit that, I quit the debating society that day. But by May 2009, because I didn't feel I had integrity, I'd made mistakes and all that, I think I was ready to say that I had settled a bit more into the food plan. And my abstinent date is termed from there, May 2009. So that's 11 years, by the grace of God. But at that time, in the course of my work, I had to do an awful lot of social engagements. And before that, I would have fallen at the first hurdle. I would have said, no, I can't do it. That would have been a great excuse for me not to do Grey Sheet. But that, no matter what, stuck in my head. And I stood up. It was the community that really helped me, because I discussed it all with them. And this was different from anything I'd ever had before. And I was able to stand up to the maitre d' of this very posh wedding I was obliged to go to, amongst other social engagements, and told him I'm bringing my food. My sponsor was so, encouraging of me and so admiring of me that was enough to, help me to do that. So I did bring my food and I ate my food, and it was their food was all expensive, but mine was so much better and looked better. And so that was the first test, if you like. So after that, what happened? And throughout this time, over the years, I had a friend who, just writing down, just taking notes, I realized that she very subtly didn't like me doing Grey Sheet. She would say things to me like, no, you've done, for years now, you've done it. she couldn't get that it was the last house in the block whenever I'd say anything. She didn't get that language, and that's okay. I never got it for years, but she'd say, no, you can do it. But what I think she didn't realize, and I now realize, is she was talking to a dead ego. My ego was dead. I mean, before that, that might have flattered me. She certainly rated me. She thought she was rating me. But in a way, it was like, get thee behind me, Satan, in a way. You know, that was it. And our friendship didn't stand the test. We had a clash one day, and she said to me, we were at the coast and, you know, on holiday, and she said to me, well, she'd take me back if I stayed overnight. And I said, well, I need to plan my food. I just need to get a few things. Oh, she said, are you going to let it stop you from enjoying your life? And anyway, the whole thing blew up. And I had to really thank God again for the community. I had to think about that. And, you know, I thought, is she right? And I'm wrong. Is she, you know, I had to really, you know, work the program on that. But thank God today, you know, I just, as I say, I had the community. I just kept doing what I always do. And I did that because over time, the rewards have been that I get a feeling of peace after each meal. I stay the same weight and dress size. I calm down when I'm prepping. My palate has healed and I taste the food in a delicious way. God forbid that COVID, they don't taste their food in COVID. God forbid. I mean, I love my grey sheet food. And recently, my sister died with cancer. And again, it was not a natural order of things. She was the youngest in the family. And it was very heartbreaking. And I am feeling fragile throughout it all. I may not sound it because I'm clinging on, but I am feeling a lot of grief at the moment. But it never occurred to me to pick up. I know that if I pick up and eat on that, it will not solve anything. You know, it just, on the contrary, grey sheet has been, thank you, Kelly, thank you. Grey sheet has been, I see you, oh, you must be frozen, has been my strength and stay throughout this time. Throughout 11 years, grey sheet has been my strength and stay in all walks of life, all areas of life. And I did a chair today, so I apologize. There's people here heard that, so I apologize to them. And I apologize from reading off notes and not being that spontaneous, but that's where I am today. And that's okay. I know that that's okay. And I borrowed that expression from the Queen, actually. I'm not a royalist, and I'm not a royalist. I couldn't care less. Just give me my 3 grey sheet meals a day and I'm happy. But she said that about Prince Philip after their 90th something year or whatever. And I feel that way about grey sheet, my grey sheet food plan today. I have lovely sponsees who are the same. They're so dedicated, they're so committed. I love hearing their food every day. I just, you know, it's just the whole way of life suits me, you know, and it is a daily, you know, it's a daily program. I started to realize that, started to think, I can do this today. If difficulties crept in, as they do in life, you know, that I can do it for today. I can go and source it. I can do it. I can prep it. I can do it. I can plan it. And I am so, so glad that I do. So glad that I do. And it's the last house in the block, but for me, it's been a mansion, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope I didn't freeze, and I hope I made some sense. Thank you.